Okay, all right. Does everyone have a calculator? Cool. Let's look at number 1. It says find the max or the min. What are they asking for? The vertex. And how do we find the vertex? Negative b over 2a is the what coordinate? How do we find the y coordinate? Guess what? We're going to do that for number 1. So, so for my x coordinate, I have to find negative b over 2a. So, negative 4 over 2 times what? What is a? Negative 1. Now, make sure, everybody listen carefully. Make sure that when you put this in your calculator, you do not put this in all at once. It will not give you the same answer. You always need to simplify both pieces of your fraction first. So you would say 2 times negative 1 first, and then divide those two numbers. You got it? So what is 2 times negative 1? And what's negative 4 over negative 2? 2. Bam. Y coordinate. How am I going to figure out my y coordinate? Very good. Now, do you see how it had a negative in the front of it? We still keep that negative. But guess what? It's not on the inside. So unlike quadratic formula, which would make our b squared positive, this kid was already negative, so he stays negative. You got it? Plus 4 times 2 minus 1. Put that in your calculator. Tell me what you get. And what do we get? 3. So, what is my vertex? 2, 3. Now, guess what? I'm not going to make you do number 2. So, you can X that. You don't even have to do that for homework. Okay, number 3. Solve for the roots using what? Oh, no. We're going to do it anyways. All right. What needs to be done for completing the square? Okay, you could either move over the 8 first, or first you could divide everything by 2. Let's go ahead and divide everything by 2 first. All right, so if it gives us a decimal, we're just going to write our decimal down. Y'all got that? Okay, so what is that going to leave us with right here? P squared minus, what is 5 divided by 2? 2.5p plus 4 equals 3.5. Got it? Okay, from here, what do I need to do to get p by itself? All right, so I'm going to have p squared minus 2.5p plus blank equals what? Negative 0.5 plus blank. Y'all got it? How do I figure out what goes in my blank? What is 2.5 divided by 2? So 1.5 squared, and then what do we get? 1.5625. And I'm going to keep all of the decimals. The only time that we don't keep all the decimals is if it took up our whole calculator screen. All right, I want everyone in here to tell me what is the shortcut. Go. I'm sorry, 1 second. I said everyone. Go. Oh, 1.25. Thank you. 1.25. What goes on the other side? Negative 0.5 plus 1.5625. What is it? And now, what do we do to figure out what p is? Take the square root of each side. So what are we going to be left with on the left side? Equals plus or minus. That's where your plus or minus comes in. And we're going to, I think it's like 1.03. That's what we'll round to. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay, now what do I need to do? Okay, so what are my two problems that I have? Good. Or we could say 1.03 plus 12.5 or negative 1.03 plus 1.25. What are we going to get when we do that? Let's do this one first together. Everybody do 1.03 plus 1.25. Tell me what's one of your answers. 2.28. All right, everyone together with your calculator. Do negative 1.03 plus 1.25. Done. Okay, any questions about that? Now, number 4 says solve for roots. What are the roots? Yeah, roots are another word for zeros or x-intercepts. So you can use any method. What are our three methods? Quadratic formula, factoring, completing the square. All right, what do we have to do first, though, before we can solve? No. You got to get everything on one side. So who do I need to move over? The x. So since it's a positive x, what would it be when I move it over? Negative x. Now where does that negative x need to go? Behind the 5x squared. So bam, this would be your problem. You could choose to either quadratic formula, you could choose to do factoring, or you could choose to do completing the square. If we did quadratic formula, what would A be? What would B be? Negative 1. What would C be? Now keep in mind, when I do B squared, is that going to have a negative answer? No, it's always positive inside the radicand. You got it? Okay, you're going to have to do that one later, but we're going to move on. Look at the very 5 and 6. 5 and 6 say what? Put the following in what form? Factored form. Factored form is just when you set your parentheses. That's it. You're not setting the parentheses equal to 0. All that factored form is, you can do quadratic and then put what would be your parentheses. You got it? You're going to do that. Now, we're going to do 7 and 8 together. It says solve for m. What property do you notice that this is? It has a 0, it has a product, and it's a rule. So 0, good job, Cameron. 0, product, property. Okay, let me give you something that one of my students noticed. One of my students said last hour that how many zeros should I have in the first problem? However many variables you have in your problem is how many zeros are there. So how many x-intercepts or zeros are in this problem? 3, because there's 3 variables. How many zeros would be in this problem? 2, because there's 2 variables. So here it's going to have 3 x-intercepts. Here this has 2 x-intercepts. You got it? The only thing that you set equal to 0 is if it has a variable. Those are the terms. So does this piece have a variable? Yep, so 3m equals 0. Does this parentheses have a variable? Yes, so 2m minus 1 equals 0. Does this have a variable? Yep, so m plus 4 equals 0. Now what do we do to get m by itself? What is 0 over 3? What do I do here to get m by itself? So you'd have 2m equals 1, then what? So m is, and then what do we do right here? Subtract 4, and m equals negative 4. There are your 3 zeros. So this actually is not a quadratic function because it passes more than twice. But that's free knowledge. You don't have to know that. Okay, let's look at number 8. Number 8. Can I go ahead and erase this? All right. I'll just do it like this then. Change to blue. All right. Which pieces should I set equal to 0? Am I going to set that 4 equal to 0? No, why not? Yeah, it doesn't have a variable. What about the next parentheses? So 3 minus m equals 0. What about the next parentheses? M plus 2 equals 0. As long as they have variables, you set them. How would I solve for m here? Minus 3. So what would we have left? Equals negative 3. Divide by negative 1. Very good. So m is 3. What about right here? Minus 2. So m is negative 2. Okay, so let's talk about the difference real quick between 5 and 6, and 7 and 8. Factored form would just be, hey, put them in parentheses and be done. But when I say solve or find the zeros, find the roots, that's when you take the factored form and each piece of it you set equal to 0. Do y'all understand the difference? Okay, are there any questions? Any at all? Okay, I'm a big fan of the next page, or the back page, because this is something I like to call review. All right. Okay, number 9. Who remembers how I would work this one? Very good. Somebody said rainbow. We do not rainbow because they have a plus sign in between. So what do you just do? Combine like terms. Bring it down. So let's do this one real quick together. So, all right, who would be our like terms? So what would that combine to be? 4x squared. Yes, the only time you add exponents is when you're multiplying. Okay, so now negative 4x and a negative 1x is going to give me a, and then 5 plus 3. Done. Bam. That's just testing your mathematical skills. What would we do for number 10? Very good. We're going to change the signs after the minus. What do we do with this 3? You distribute it. So you would have 3x squared plus 12 minus x squared plus 5. Do y'all see that? I distributed my 3, and then I changed my signs back here. And then from there we can combine like terms. What is 3 minus 1? So 2x squared. 12 plus 5 is done. Okay, number 11. What would we do for that one? Why do I do rainbows for number 11? Very good, because they're touching. When two parentheses are touching, they want to multiply the love. All right? So, we're multiplying these. Remember, that's when you multiply numbers. And what do you do with the exponents? You add the exponents. All right. Now, you could either draw your little symbols if you wanted, or what else did we talk about doing? Yeah, you can make like a chart if you wanted to. It's however you want. If I did by chart 3m squared minus 10m plus 5, and then on this side, I'd be multiplying negative 4m plus 3. Make little bitty slots for it. It's however you want to set it up. Okay, so from here, if I multiplied these two terms together, what would I get? M to the third, because you have 3 m's. What if I did this guy with this guy? 9m squared. What if I do this term with this term? What if I do this guy with this one? Good. What about 5 times negative 4m? And what about 5 and 3? And then what's our last step after we multiply? Who are our like terms? Yeah, normally it makes like the like terms are in the diagonal, which is kind of cool. But do you have to use a chart? No, you could have done just your little symbols if you wanted. Anyways, when you combine like terms, you're going to get positive 49m squared minus 50m plus 15. You're combining like terms. A negative 20 and a negative 30 is a negative 15. This is just review. Okay, last one, number 12. How would I work number 12? Why do I write it twice? Yes, what did we say that looked like? Twins. Good job. Minus 10. What would I do now? Multiply. You would do rainbows of only the things in the parentheses, right? So I'm going to do that with you real quick, but I'm going to do it in red so you don't get these two confused. What is m times m? M times 2m. 2 times m. 2 times 2. Once again, if you wanted to put this in a chart, you could. Or you could just do your rainbows, what we call them. Okay, so combine like terms. What do we have, guys? Done. You have to know how to simplify polynomials because quadratics, when we're dealing with those equations, they all go by the same polynomial rules. That's why we practice them. You had a question, Bubba? Okay, number 13 says use the picture to answer the questions. Very descriptive. What is the vertex? 4 and 16. So that's the y coordinate, x coordinate. So 4 comma 16. What are the roots? What's another word for roots? Zeros are the x-intercepts. What are our two roots? 0 and 8. Make sure you don't put that in parentheses because that's not a point. It's the number 0 and the number 8. Now, number 15 is going to be a bonus tomorrow, okay? And it says, what could be an equation of this parabola? There's two things you can do. You can either use vertex form. Do y'all remember how vertex form was 8x minus h squared plus k? Do y'all remember that? Well, that is vertex form, my friends. We definitely talked about that for 2 days. You can either use vertex form, and by that, all we do is we just use our vertex. So h is our x coordinate of our vertex. So it would be x minus, what was h? 4 squared plus k is your y coordinate, so 16. Now, since it points down, though, that means it would have to have a negative sign in front of it. So, bam, look. That's one thing we could say. And let's stop real quick. Let's tie this in with something else we've already done. Transformation of functions. Transformation, what does it mean? Where do we move if there's a minus inside? Not left. We go right 4. And then what does that plus 16 meant we did? Oh my goodness. Look at that. There it is. And the negative flip. So that's why the parabola is not pointing up. Does it all make sense now? I think it's kind of cool how it does that. Now, this is a possible equation. Doesn't mean this is actually the equation. Because it could be like a negative 3 times all that. But I don't care about that. That would be a bonus. You got it? What happens if it opens up? Would you need the negative in front? No. Okay. The other way you could do it, let me just show you the last way. You can just make parentheses factored form with your zeros. So that would be x minus 0 times x minus 8. Because that's our zeros. And it would need to be a negative still because it's flipped. But I think the easiest way probably to think about it would be to use the vertex form. Once again, this isn't the exact equation. It's just a possible equation. You got it? But do you see how vertex form is kind of just like transformations? I think it's beautiful how it ties in together. Okay, for the rest of class, you're just going to be working on your 2 worksheets. This is due tomorrow. These circled problems. And then we have 1, 2, 3 problems on the front. That's a total of 9 problems for homework tonight. Ooh! So go ahead and get started on it.